Saturday View with Ronan Berry. With thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. LumcloonEnergy.com. Call 0818 300 103. Text or WhatsApp your Saturday View to 083 3010 103.
Hello and a very good morning. It's Ronan Berry here and it's time for Saturday View. Coming up on the show this morning, should Irish people be mandated to carry maybe snow chains in the boots of our car, or even snowshoes, or even at minimum maybe put on winter tyres for a couple of months, because we probably are going to see weather events like we've had for the last week from time to time. Already people have been texting in with their experience from across the world. Is that something that maybe would work, could work? Would it help us keep schools open, keep postal services functioning, keep access to hospitals free? Who knows? We'll discuss that with a Midlands motor dealer in just a couple of moments. Also, we'll be talking to the co-founder of a women's walking group in County Laois, and they've set up the group to provide safe, anxiety-free exercise with regular walk schedules in Portlaoise and Abbeyleak to begin with, but they're looking for people to get involved too and join their groups, and who knows, maybe even duplicate it around the Midlands. Also, we'll be getting an update from Holyhead because, well, about Holyhead, there are rumours or suggestions that it might partially reopen the port next week. It is a critical piece of infrastructure and a critical route for Irish freight. We'll look at the impact it's had already, particularly post-Christmas, when it's kind of gone out of the media a little bit because there was such pressure and such concern about the lack of deliveries or, goods getting across the Irish Sea. But we'll get an idea of exactly where it is right now and what we might read or take from that announcement from next week. So lots coming up on the show this morning. As always, if you want to join the conversation, 083 3010 103, text and WhatsApp number, you'll get me here in the studio, or you can drop us a call on 0818 300 103. Always happy to hear from you and hear what's happening in your world at the minute. But to kick off this morning, we're going to go all the way across to Uganda. And if you cast your mind back a couple of weeks, I had in studio Tom Doyle and Luke Carberry, and they were part of a group of people who were going to deliver emergency vehicles that were donated by the Japanese government and had been shipped to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And they were part of a team of 30 people, including former Gardaí and members of the Gardaí and many business people too from Ireland. They were going to drive that fleet from Dar es Salaam up to Uganda, and as part of that too, they had organised a major fundraiser for Hospice Africa Uganda. Now on the day, Tom and Luke and Miriam Donoghue spoke at length about the difference that funding can make, that even €25 can keep a person on morphine for a full week in Uganda, a country where access to healthcare, particularly palliative care, was non-existent, or still is pretty much non-existent for so many people. The money makes a huge difference. They had a target of €50,000. On the show that morning, they raised that to €100,000. We're going to go across to Tom now. He is in Uganda somewhere, I believe. Very good morning or afternoon, Tom. Can you hear me, Tom?
Morning, Ronan.
Tom, how's it? You're in Uganda at present?
I can hear you, Ronan, yeah.
Yeah. How's everybody in Uganda?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Good. Sorry, there might be a slight delay on the line, Ronan, I think. So I'm in Kampala in Uganda right now.
And so you've successfully made the trip with the emergency vehicles from Dar es Salaam up. How long did it take and how did it go for you?
So it wasn't without its challenges. We arrived into Dar es Salaam in Tanzania on New Year's Eve, and we had hoped that we spend 1 or 2 days getting the vehicles out from customs and get through all the bureaucracy and red tape, and that by the 2nd of January we would have set out, and we thought that the journey would take us 6 or 7 days. In fact, there was an awful lot more bureaucracy and red tape. It took us a week to get the vehicles out from customs. Every time we thought we had it over the line, another piece of paperwork emerged that needed to be completed, and all that went along with that. And eventually, it had taken us a week. So we were about 5 days later than we thought when we set forth. And so we had to complete the drive in about 3.5 days.
And somebody like yourself, though, with all your vast business experience across the world, let's say a bit of paperwork wouldn't scare you. But any other issues encountered, from a mechanical perspective, weather perspective, was that fairly smooth?
No, the weather was fine. We had some rain early on, but nothing that would affect travel. In terms of mechanical issues, nothing major. Actually, something very stupid. In fact, the roads here are very bumpy, and so everything gets shaken around. For transport, the shipping company had removed the power cables from all the batteries in the vehicles and put them back on, but not properly. And so 3 or 4 of the vehicles went down one day, just lost power, all within a couple of hours of each other. And it took a while to figure out what was wrong, but eventually it just came down to battery issues, leads that were getting shaken off on bad roads.
No, it's simple enough in the end, thankfully. But anyway, you made it to Kampala, Uganda, and of course, the big part of this too was the fundraising for Hospice Africa Uganda. On the show a couple of weeks ago, you raised your target from 50 to 100,000. Where are you at present with that?
So actually, that morning, I kind of maybe jumped the gun a little bit, and we were at 51,000 that morning. We had hoped initially we might raise 10 or 20,000. A small amount of money goes a very long way for Hospice Uganda. They can give a month's morphine care for a terminally ill patient for as little as 25 euros for 1 month. They can provide a hospice nurse for somewhere between 3,500 and 5,000 euros for an entire year. So a little bit of money goes a long way. I upped it without saying it to anybody else in the group to 100,000 that morning, hoping that we might motivate some of the people that were listening to try and get some more money in. And indeed, people have been very, very generous. As of this morning, we have just under 110,000 euros raised, and that's the largest single amount in the almost 40-year history of Hospice Africa Uganda that has ever been raised in one go.
That's phenomenal. And as we spoke about that morning, and you pointed out there, even 25 euros makes a huge difference. How was your arrival greeted by Hospice Africa Uganda, particularly when you informed them of how much money you've raised to this point?
Yeah, I mean, they're blown away. We had kept them appraised, I suppose, as the numbers climbed. Every time we hit a new hurdle, when we crossed 50,000, we were really excited, and we shared that with them. So there was no great surprise, but it is traditional in Ugandan culture to thank somebody who has done something amazing for you by going down on your knees in front of them. And in fact, all of the staff of the hospice came out and got down on their knees in front of our group yesterday morning when we arrived there. They can't believe the generosity of the network of friends and family and business contacts that our 30 people have brought in. We had no professional fundraiser amongst us or anything like that. These were all friends and family donating anything from 10 euros to 50 or 100, or some exceptionally generous people who might have given a couple of hundred or even 500 euros in some cases. And so they're blown away.
That's phenomenal achievement as well. And even better than that, you missed all the cold weather at home too. When are you due back, Tom?
So I believe. So some of the group have already left here. So Luke Carberry would have loved to come on and have a chat here this morning. Luke is on his way to Entebbe, a very famous airport from some years ago. So he's on his way to Entebbe right now to get on a flight home. He'll arrive back in Tullamore tomorrow morning. I leave tomorrow, and I think I'm among the last because I was one of the organisers. So I'll sit it out until everybody is done and dusted. There were a couple of other things that came up, Ronan. One of interest. There's a slum school called Hands for Hope here in Uganda. We had visited them 5 years ago when we did the trip here, and we decided that we'd go back and see them yesterday. So we went there yesterday afternoon. They provide an education for children that are living in a slum next door. Some of the kids were amazed that on my phone I had pictures from 5 years ago, and they were looking at pictures of themselves from 5 years ago. They were also very proud. We had brought them out some toys and things, but amongst what we brought them some Hurleys, and they were very proud to bring out all the Hurleys from 5 years ago and show us that they still had them. And they now, every Friday evening, they play hurling in that school because we provided them with about 24 hurls 5 years ago, and they're really well-minded.
That's absolutely fantastic. You'll have to rope in Adam Screeney or somebody now for your next trip in a couple of years' time. They'd love that, I'd say. Tom,
yeah.
Phenomenal achievement as well. Look, congratulations is all we can say to you, and well done. I mean, it's going to make such a huge difference in so many lives, not just the hospice, as you pointed out there, but across so many levels. Safe travels home, Tom, and look forward to catching up with you when you get back to Ireland.
Thanks very much, Ronan. Thanks again. And look, our donation lines are still open until about the 10th of February or thereabouts. So anybody wants to look up the link that you had put up previously on the Midlands 103 website, or look me up on Facebook, and they'll find the link there. But for the people who have donated, it means so much. It's going to change lives. Without Hospice Africa, people here face agonising death if they're terminally ill, so it makes a huge difference. So thanks so much to everybody that has supported what we've done here.
Not at all. An absolute pleasure. Tom Doyle, thank you for that as well. If you just put in Hospice Africa Uganda and even Tom Doyle's name into Google, you'll find his fundraising page there too. As he said, open until the 10th of February. Still time to add to that incredible total they've raised already. Time for a quick break. Right now across the Midlands, it's a little bit colder, I'm sure, than it is in Uganda at present. It's about 4 degrees.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumcloon Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumcloonenergy.com.
Still to come on Saturday View this morning, we'll just look at that whole idea of winter tyres. Should we have winter tyres on our cars and vehicles for the couple of months where we are at risk of a bit of bad weather and snow? What do they do in other countries, and how practical or feasible might it be to use winter tyres on our cars? That's coming up shortly. And also we'll get the latest from what's happening in Holyhead in the port, with a proposed reopening or partial reopening from next week being mentioned by Taoiseach Simon Harris yesterday. What impact has the closure had so far on Irish hauliers? They've gone to extra lengths apparently to get goods into this country. What's the long-term solution there, and what are potential contingencies as we move forward on that? But before that, I'm delighted to be joined by Caitlin Dempsey, and I'm also joined in studio by Sally-Ann Barrett. And Sally-Ann has been working behind the scenes on Midlands 103 for a while now in production roles, and she will be in the hot seat on Saturday View for the next 2 weeks as well. So Sally-Ann is here with me in studio, and she's going to join this conversation too. But Caitlin Dempsey is the co-founder of Walking Girls Club in Laois, and the club was set up really to ease the anxieties of walking, and that's according to the 3 co-founders. Very good morning, Caitlin.
Morning, hi, how are you?
Not a pleasure, Caitlin. Thank you for taking the call this morning as well. Your first walk is scheduled for next Monday, January the 13th, but take us through, how did Walking Girls Club first come about?
It's an idea I've had for quite a while, because there's not in our area that's not like a running club. But I was texting the girls in the group the other day, and I was saying that because I feel safe for walking at home. Like, we've all cancelled our gym memberships and everything. We're paying €40-50 a month to use the gym just to feel safer. And then we're kind of sitting there like, imagine we would actually rather pay €250 for a walking pass when we could just go outside. But every time I go to a family event, every single one will talk to me about how they love out in the evenings, but it's too dark, or they'd be petrified of just walking down the road because you just don't know what's around the corner. Unfortunately, that's just a good thing. So I kind of said, we should do a walking club. I think that'd be nice, and then we can kind of build people up as well, do loads of little things with it. I think it's a great idea.
And was it something that if you mentioned it to friends or work colleagues that you got the same response from them, that they felt something like this was badly needed?
Yeah, unfortunately every woman has a story about something that happened. Even myself, I'm sure I have plenty of them to tell you that will probably shock you. That women just don't feel safe walking. To be honest, it's ridiculous. We shouldn't feel unsafe in our own town.
Sally-Ann Barrett is sitting opposite me, and she's kind of nodding in agreement as well. Like Caitlin just said, or Sally-Ann, every woman has a story. You were nodding as soon as she said it.
Yeah, I think every female, possibly, and not to generalise, but I would say the majority of us have had some kind of an experience where we've been out walking, headphones in, and you felt a bit nervous at some stage about something. Like I would find, I don't know if Caitlin agrees, if I was walking on my own, I'd very much be conscious of, I live in a rural area, I'd always stay on a pathway where there's houses along the route, etc. And I'd always maybe mention at home, I'm taking this particular route or whatever. And it annoys me to feel that I have to do that. I don't know if Caitlin agrees, but it's just something that you do nearly as second nature, Ronan, because you want to be able to enjoy the outdoors. Like, it's January, the evenings are short, so that time frame is very short. So I think this is a brilliant idea, what Caitlin has come up with. I'd love to see it in my own local area in East Galway, because to be able to walk with friends and to be able to feel safe in the evening is absolutely brilliant and so needed.
And Caitlin, does it change if it's rural or urban? Is it still the same concern? Does a town centre bring more peace of mind? No. That phone line seems to have dropped there, actually. It was a little bit touchy. I'll just get Nelly to try and get Caitlin back on the line there too. But Sally Ann, obviously, I suppose I'll put that question to yourself then. Does a more urban setting, does it provide any more of a heightened sense of security, or is it just that, are you constantly being vigilant and watching?
Yeah, I suppose it's funny. I was conscious. I was doing a piece with a lady that works in an urban area there before Christmas. She's involved in Meals and Wheels service, and she said she travels in from her local area to the nearest town to be able to do a walk in the evening so she can take advantage of the street lighting, that she wouldn't feel safe walking in a rural area. And I suppose what Caitlin is doing is one idea, Ronan, but I was saying to you when we were chatting this morning before we came on air about how great an idea this is, I said I actually joined up for the Every Step Counts 2025 challenge earlier this week, so the timing couldn't have been better. Where basically my local GAA club, to maintain their Healthy Clubs badge, they have to do initiatives each year. So it's something that's being run through Irish Life, where they're encouraging every club to get their participants out to walk at particular times at their club grounds during the week. So we're very lucky. I'm in Caltra GAA. We have a massive walking track that's lit in the evenings. So we're all logged onto an app where you're clocking your miles and everything. So already now this week I've been out 3 times, and I would generally walk. But it would be during the day, and if the weather wasn't good or on my side, then I mightn't bother. Whereas I feel if I'm going with a group of people now and I'm doing something for the club, I'm definitely going. And I brought the kids down last night as well, and they absolutely loved it.
Fantastic, and nothing better than January to get going as well. I think we have Caitlin back on the line there too. It just dropped. Caitlin, are you there with us again?
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's perfect, and it sounds even much clearer as well. So you were just kind of giving us an idea about maybe, I suppose, the need. I guess it's been covered a lot, and sometimes people are probably a bit dismissive, going, why do we keep saying that? But it is very much an ever-present fear and a concern out there. And how has the response been so far since you set up? I know Walking Girls Club, you have an Instagram and Facebook page set up. What has the response from the public been like so far?
It's been amazing. We have nearly 450 followers in 5 days. We kind of just expected to be like, oh, just a few people around Portlaoise might kind of say, oh yeah, I'd love to do it. But we have so many people saying, this is amazing, like I'm always home alone and I would just love to have something like this around. But we've had I get about 5 or 6 messages a day from people just saying, this is amazing, I really needed this, and thank you so much for setting up this club.
Fantastic. And you have a busy schedule ahead. All kicks off from Monday next week.
Yeah, we're going to do different routes. So on a Monday night, we're at the Portlaoise Plaza. On a Wednesday, we'll meet at Costa Coffee in the business park in Portlaoise. And then on Sundays, we're kind of doing a different approach. We're going to go to different places around Laois. We're starting in Ableek Bog Walk.
Fantastic. What a super amenity to start on as well. I assume with the group then there's no limit, there's no restrictions in terms of age, physical ability. Is it open for all women?
Yeah, anyone at all. I know I've gotten a few messages asking about like the pace. Can people who are more of a slow walker join? Anyone at all, any woman, any age, who just wants to walk and feel safe, they're more than welcome to come with us.
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea, and it sounds really simple, but often the really simple things are the hardest ones to pull together and deliver. But I suppose back on that topic of the need to set up something like the Walking Girls Club, when did the need to keep an eye out, to watch what's behind you, who's in it? When did that first start with you when you were growing up?
Since I was a child. I think it got passed down from my mum. My mum has always been, obviously, my safety first, but she's always just, when we're walking around, I can even notice, like, if we're walking on certain roads, she might hold my hand a bit tighter. And then even with my friends, I'm kind of the mammy of the group, so I've always just been, like, looking around. And like I'd say, my boyfriend makes fun of me sometimes. I'm always just like looking around. And he's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I'm actually just nervous. It's just scary. You just don't know what's going on." And especially coming up to Aisling Murphy's memorial tomorrow, like I think it really hit the nail on the head there. Like when all that came out, because she was my age, and it's horrible. It's absolutely disgusting that people can't even go for a walk or a run without fearing for their life. It's a simple thing.
And strength in numbers, certainly for yourselves, will ring true, when you get those groups, and there's so many other potential benefits on it too. But do you think you're also beginning to raise yet again awareness around the subject matter? Have you any ambitions around that? Like, do you want to get that message and bring it to people in authority, bring it to government? Have you any ambitions on that level?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as I was saying before, every woman has a story. Like, it happened to me before, that me and my friend were walking in a well-known place in Portlaoise, and we were chased by a group of boys in a car, and they're all wearing Halloween masks. And we went to their nearest place, and the person there told us not to be calling the guards because, oh, they didn't touch you, so you'll be all right. And that's the kind of general attitude, and it's just horrible. Like, we were so scared, and I really did feel like I wasn't safe. And for a man to tell me, don't bother the guards, you're grand, he didn't touch you, is absolutely horrific.
Wow, that's staggering, and that's only one incident, and coming from one person as well. And again, I'm looking at Sally Ann opposite me, and again she's nodding in agreement, and it sounds like an experience you've probably lived yourself or know someone who has.
Not to that extent, but like what I would take from what Caitlin has relayed there is, it's not necessarily women that need to be educated. We all know how to keep ourselves safe and to take the basic precautions, which we shouldn't have to be
100%.
taking. It's men who need to be educated. And again, not to generalise, but, when you hear scenarios like that, I mean, that is very frightening for a couple of females on their own. And for something to get to that extent in the middle of a town is very worrying. But again, like that, we take all the precautions we can, Caitlin, but you sound very much like me. You sound like you feel like you have a sixth sense about things, and I'm that kind of person as well. You're nearly always watching in potential of what may happen, and that's something that a lot of us feel. And it's great that it's a walking group as well, Ronan. I think that's key, because there is a lot of running groups, but I don't know about others. I don't have the knees for that kind of thing anymore. I don't know if I ever did.
That's exactly it. We're the same. Like, I wouldn't be a runner at all, but I just thought of, like, even elderly people, if they want to get out in the evenings and go for a walk, and they should be able to do that. Like, obviously, running clubs are amazing. I think they're a great idea, but I just think there's something like this needed for all ages, that no matter what your capabilities are, that you're able to get out in the evening and have a walk.
Yeah, and with the chats that go on as well, it's absolutely brilliant, because the next thing you've 5K done and you're only halfway through the story of the evening, so you feel like you could really clock up the steps. It's brilliant. My steps all this week, I'm absolutely delighted. I've been doing so much without realising it.
That's what you want. I think mine are about 0 because I'm scared to go out.
That's certainly going to change from next week anyway. And when you get those groups of people together and say you've three dates 3 times for next week, and something to really build on as well. And it'll be very interesting to see as to where that goes, what message comes from it too, because you can even sense, talking to both of you, like the frustration there, and we come back to the education piece again. And a lot of new legislation came into this country with the Domestic Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Act last year, the setting up of Coon as well. But you probably are surprised that it's already 3 years since Aisling Murphy was senselessly murdered on the banks of the Grand Canal. Has enough happened in 3 years, do you think? Go to you on that one, Caitlin.
I don't think so, because even now I don't feel safe. Like, I'm 25 years old and I can't even walk out the front of my house without feeling scared. I don't think there's anything really that's set in stone that would help. Like, as you were saying there, like, we're brought up as women to learn, put your keys between your fingers, or bring this with you, and then if someone comes near you, do this or whatever, when it should be taught, just don't intimidate women. I don't understand, like, the thought process behind men, or like why they do it, or how they find it funny. But men should be taught not to abuse women or intimidate women. Like, it shouldn't be us trying to defend ourselves. It should be them just stopping the problem at the source.
From an education perspective, what do you think could be done straight away?
I think it should realistically start at a young age, that you can there's some like positive things should be introduced. But I think, like, when I was in secondary school, we were shown videos and everything of like what should happen in this scenario. But like, men that I've talked to, that nothing has ever been shown to them in school, like videos of, if this happens, or if you see this happen to a woman, what would you do? It's never like that. It's always just women protect themselves. So I think they should introduce something like that, or like even like seminars for like young men in secondary school or anything like that. Like, even have women coming in and chatting to them, because I don't think it's talked enough about men, because they don't experience it to the same level as women.
Yeah.
Like, every time I'm with my friends, we talk about it. Like, we always talk about something. I was walking here and saw this and this happened, or cheer about that woman that was followed down the road. Whereas with lads, I'm sure they don't have that conversation.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I don't think they don't, because I remember experiencing that in a club I'm involved in, and there would be, a largely male membership of it. And around this time 3 years ago, the talk was maybe how there was a complete lack, and there was a beginning to be an acceptance of the lack of realisation of even how women were treated in the workplace at times. Stuff was said, comments passed, and maybe how old cultures, old habits were just kind of had prevailed. But you could get a sense that things had changed a lot in the last 10 or 15 years. Clearly this is an area that we need to go a little bit further on as well. The routes you've selected, have you purposely picked those in terms of lighting, in terms of the safe space as well?
Yeah, I picked them because they're well lit, there's houses around, there's people that I know live in that area. So that's the way my thought process would be. I'm like, it's near the Garda station, it's near people I know. If anything happens, I'm safe. It's like they're the measures you have to take.
Yeah, fantastic. And we've a couple of people texting in actually just wondering what the name of the group is as well. So it's the Walking Girls Club. And if you just put that into Facebook or into Instagram in particular, you'll find all the details you need and the contact information for them as well. Sally Ann, any further comments?
No, I just think it's great, and I would imagine that Caitlin is hoping that other people in other areas might replicate the idea, because it's a great idea for where you are, Caitlin. I'm sure there's going to be huge appetite for this across the Midlands.
Yeah, 100%. It'd be great if we could get more people around the place. And as you say, on Sundays we're going to be changing our route, so we'll be going all over the place for a walk. Not even just in Laois. We might do, like I have friends up in Dublin and stuff, we might do a walk around there. I think there's just so much possibility for how big this could be.
Well, congratulations. Look, it's a great achievement to get it this far, to get set up. Undoubtedly, you're going to have a big engagement next week. And look, we might catch up with you again in a couple of months' time and just see how things are going and how many steps you've up. And again, to see what sort of level of awareness it raises too. But for now, Caitlin Dempsey, thank you so much for that this morning. And just a reminder for people there, the first walk is taking place on Monday the 13th of January. They're meeting at the Portlaoise Plaza at 7:30pm. Then Wednesday, January the 15th at the Costa Car Park in Portlaoise at 7:30pm. And then on Sunday morning at 10am, that's next Sunday, at the start, not tomorrow, the following Sunday, at the start of the Abbey Leaks Bog Walk. So again, Walking Girls Club, check them out on Instagram and you'll find all the details you need. And Caitlin mentioned there too about the memorial walk for Aisling Murphy, and she'll be remembered on the 3rd anniversary of her death tomorrow, January the 12th, with a mass in Mount Bolus and a walk on the bank of the Grand Canal between Tullamore and Cappin Cur. There's details there online on the Aisling Murphy Memorial Facebook page as well around the details of the walk and when it'll happen. It's about a 20-25 minute walk, so again, open to people of all ages, all abilities too, and undoubtedly many people will be there to show their support to Aisling Murphy, to her family, and to so many other people who, well, unfortunately have to be remembered at this time of year as well. Time for another quick break. After that, we'll look at the whole idea of maybe winter tyres in Ireland and get an update on what's happening in Holyhead Port.
Saturday View, with thanks to Lumclume Energy, pioneering innovation, powering progress. lumclumeenergy.com.
You'll remember just before Christmas we experienced Storm Dara across the country, and it brought a lot of impact in terms of high winds and stormy conditions and stuff like that. But one thing that it caused, which was entirely unexpected, and certainly from somebody not in the haulage sector or in the transportation or the fulfilment sector, you wouldn't have envisaged the impact it might have had in Holyhead Port in the UK. And Storm Dara caused significant damage to Terminal 3 and to Terminal 5 to the ferry berths there. And at one point before Christmas there was talks of maybe 1 million, then 500,000 individual packages being held up and being delayed, and there was genuine concerns of people that would those Christmas gifts that order for loved ones actually make it across in time. It looks like An Post and the various companies, delivery companies, got to the backlog. One company that was heavily involved in that was Highland Transport, based of course in Rosenallis and owned by Ger Highland. Ger is also the president of the Irish Road Haulage Association. A very good morning, Ger.
Morning, Ronan. Happy New Year to you and to your listeners.
And very happy New Year to you as well, Ger. Undoubtedly a busy Christmas period, as it probably would be as always. Take us through the impact though that the closure of Holyhead has had on the sector at the minute.
Well, I suppose once Christmas came and went, we didn't need the same capacity on the Irish Sea as we would have needed a week or two before Christmas. So after you go back after Christmas, there's always a quiet week or two. So it's starting to ramp up again with the opening of Holyhead Port again on the 16th, albeit a partial opening. they're going to share that part, Stena Line and Irish Ferries, which means that we will have capacity back on that route again. That route is probably the busiest route between Ireland and the UK and further afield. So roughly there's about 4.8 million tonnes of freight comes across that corridor every year, and it's a vital piece of infrastructure to get goods to and from this island. Like, what people don't realise, we are an island nation. We're on the periphery of Europe, so we are heavily isolated when something like this happens.
Absolutely, and it's like a lot of things, particularly for supply chains, we can be quite exposed quite instantly as well. That 4.8 million tonnes, it's roughly about 60% of Irish freight. So the response from Irish freight handling companies now, are they looking at alternatives, or is Holyhead really the most economically viable? Or what happens after this then? Will Holyhead, if that was your business and you couldn't deliver, you would lose customers as well? Will the same apply with Holyhead, or is it just that vital cog that needs to be reopened as soon as possible?
It's a vital cog that needs to be reopened. It's the shortest route between Ireland and the UK, and when we come off the ferry in Holyhead, we come down through the Isle of Anglesey and we're straight onto a motorway system. So there's motorway service in Holyhead. It's probably the best transport route in the UK. While we were using other ports in the UK, we didn't have the infrastructure around the ports or to get us to the ports. So Holyhead, yes, is the vital piece of infrastructure. The government, we're hopeful, is going to set a new incoming government, is going to set up a task force, and we're hoping that the Holyhead thing will be put into the programme for the new government.
And do you think will you be looking for alternatives? So firstly, when you have to divert around Holyhead, roughly how long does that add to a typical journey? And again, there's a huge cost element with that then.
Dependent on where we were able to get a booking on a ferry. Some of the freight out of Holyhead had to be taken as far up as Carnrine and come down through the north of Ireland. So that was putting an extra 2 days on a transport journey. So all of that, it has a significant cost. It has a significant labour cost, fuel cost, ferry cost. Everything was extra on top of where we were.
You've called yourself, as president of the Irish Road Haulage Association, for at least one additional shipping line on the Irish Sea to ensure the freight movements, and that there's a reliability and indeed a backup there too. What would that line look like, and how quickly could something like that be implemented?
Well, the government will have to give a licence to another shipping company to operate on the Irish Sea, and there would also have to be a berth got in the UK. There would have to be space got in Dublin Port, but all that is very doable. We needed to introduce competition in on the Irish Sea and on the Irish market. The freight volumes are growing year on year. The population in this country has grown significantly in the last 2 years, and that will drive freight volumes going forward as well.
Absolutely. So the establishment of an extra line like that is not a huge, there's a level of investment as well. Has anything emerged from Holyhead, like in terms of maybe was it gone a bit antiquated, a bit old? Like was there anything that looks like maybe was at fault for causing such disruption, or was it just one of these acts of God that unfortunately nobody could have foreseen?
Look, I suppose there has been that much freight gone through Holyhead in the last few years. There hasn't been probably the investment that maybe should have been in it. Not sure, but we're calling on the task force that's going to be set up now to review port structures in the UK, review shipping routes, and review maybe putting an extra player onto the market here.
And hopefully we can get a new government formed soon enough and get those talks and that collaboration ongoing as well. I suppose, Ger, as we look back on the last week here in Ireland, we had significant weather events. Some parts of the Midlands much more affected than others. Got huge heavy snowfalls, snow that turned to ice quite quickly. For yourselves in Highland Transport, how do you typically deal with a scenario like that? Like, what do you do with your drivers? Do you adjust the trucks or anything like that? Do you change tyres? How does a haulage company deal with weather conditions that we just experienced?
Okay, well, number one, I suppose, for the level of this type of weather event that we get here in Ireland, it's not worth our while having winter tyres or that type of thing, because for the last 4 years here, really, there has been no snow. It was, I suppose, a weather event that lasted 6 days. Us ourselves, we delivered to all the main towns within Laois and Offaly. We stayed away from the side roads and we stayed away from the country roads. It was 6 days, and for the sake of safety and one thing or another, you're better off with your truck. If it has to be parked up, well, then you park it up. But we delivered into the main towns and on the main roads.
Do you think the
warehouse was open here as well for anybody that wanted to come here and collect their own freight?
Do you think the councils do an adequate job? Do you think is there enough resources in terms of gritting, salting roads? Are we keeping the primary routes open, or should it be more focus on those smaller routes? And I appreciate it's probably hard to get to every road in the counties.
Well, I suppose like everybody else, the councils have done their best. They have limited resources as well, the same as most other companies. And I think overall they kept the main routes moving reasonably well. So, yeah, I think the council's done a reasonable job.
Absolutely, and thankfully that thaw is very much undergoing and out there now, so it looks like we've seen the back of that for now, and hopefully all comes good and Holyhead reopens even on a temporary basis or at a partial basis next week and fully as soon as possible, and we get those new lines set up and everything should be back and ready for the next crisis, Ger.
Well, absolutely. Even with the trucks going through the UK at the present time the way they are, and some of them using that as a land bridge to get to Europe, it puts the goods a day behind, which means they're 24 hour less shelf life to them. Therefore we need Holyhead up and running as quick as ever we can.
Absolutely, and actually, when you on that point, if you're shipping critical items like pharmaceutical products or medical products or food substances, those extra hours, extra days can have a significant difference on the useful shelf life. But Ger Hyland, as always, thank you so much for your updates on that, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Ronan.
Ger, of course, is the owner of Highland Transport in Rosenallis and president of Irish Road Haulage Association. And a few people have been texting in regarding winter tyres. Sean says, I lived and worked in Scandinavia. It was law to put winter tyres on your car in October, November for 6 months. And I did hear of people doing that in Ireland many years ago, that they just take the chance and put them on for maybe the 2 months, take them off then after the winter, put them in storage and get them changed out again the following winter. But yeah, when you go to other countries, you see when they're driving on winter tyres, they're driving as normal on roads that are covered in a little layer of ice and frost as well. And quite a few people around the Midlands seem to have experience of driving in Scandinavia or actually living over there as well. Somebody else though has said regarding mandatory snow chains and the likes, it's an absolute no. This country is a joke already. If there was a measure to be looked at, it should be the RSA driver testing, where drivers fail tests if they do not go from 0 to 60 in 30 seconds. At no time during mandatory lessons in this country are drivers instructed to drive in wet or icy or slippy conditions. I have to say, I really agree with that. I said to somebody years ago, you could go and do your driver test and you could do it in a nice little sleepy town somewhere across the Midlands where there's very little traffic, and that night you could head for the M50 in Dublin, maybe the Red Cow roundabout, and it could be pelting snow, it could be dark, there could be frozen road conditions, but you were deemed to be suitably qualified. Now I know the system has changed a little bit, but it's a good point. Should we have simulators? Should we have actual driving simulators that you sit into and they simulate different weather conditions, simulate what it's like when a car skids and how you try to maybe steer out of a skid or how you should brake or not brake? I think that's a really, really good point. You can do your driving test in nice, warm, mild, sunny day with no risk of any bad weather too. Same applies, of course, to rain or whatever it might be. And a good few people have texted in, all right, just regarding the snow tyres and, saying it's probably not feasible in Ireland, but certainly people's experience in other countries shows that they have done that and done so quite successfully as well. Thank you for all your texts this morning. Always nice to hear from you and hear your opinions on it there too. And as Ger Hyland pointed out there, they run a professional transport business. By sticking to the main roads, by just selecting careful routes, taking their time, they can still manage to deliver, get the goods out and keep the service going and offer the alternative for people to come and collect goods if they so need. And I suppose the question goes back to our back roads. We have so many rural, small country roads that unfortunately if they don't get treated in time, they become like ice rinks and it's very hard to mitigate and do that. And we see the impact it has on schools, on businesses, on hospitals, and you wonder, can we do a little bit better? Are we doing good enough? I think as we speak today and the thaw is on and most of the snow and ice seems to be disappearing in many parts of the Midlands, we're probably going, yeah, that's it for this year. But what if it came back again next November, maybe December, then January into February? We could be back having that discussion around winter tyres and snow tyres and everything else in between as well. Thank you, Sid, for all your texts today as well. And one person's text in and I suppose it sums up, again, it's a very poignant weekend around Ireland, around the world, because as Aisling Murphy is remembered on the 3rd anniversary of her death. And somebody just texts in and says, what gives a man the right to assault, murder or attack women? I don't think some men really care or respect women. I'd say it's not all men, we know that for a fact, but it is very, very hard to dispute that text because just look back at the news headlines over the past 2 months alone in this country and up north, and it's very hard to disagree with your text there as well. There is no right. And whether it's education, whether it's sentencing, and a lot of that is in the new Domestic Violence Act, stricter sentencing, more rights, better approach. There's so much is in it, but it needs action as well. And as Caitlin Dempsey said, 3 years on from Aisling Murphy's murder, she doesn't feel enough has been done yet. So maybe that's another topic we can take up on Saturday View soon. What else has to be done? How can we start bringing about a change and affecting a change? One for discussion on Saturday View. I'm going to make way because Lorraine McCormack is up here next with Feel Good Saturday, and I'll be back on air on Monday morning on Midlands Today. I'll be sitting in for Will Faulkner, and for the next 2 weeks on Saturday View, you heard a bit from Sally Ann Barrett earlier on the show. Sally Ann is going to take the hot seat on Saturday View. Give me a little break for another 2 weeks as you have money back after the new year, but I'm looking forward to hearing Sally Ann on Saturday View for the next 2 weeks. Keep in touch, keep your texts coming in, 083 30 10 103. Nellie will be here with her as well, and look forward to give her a good Midlands welcome, and I will talk to you all from Monday. As I say, Feel Good Saturday coming up next with Lorraine McCormack, so stick with us here in Midlands 103 as the weather hots up and things are improving out there, and I'll talk to you all very soon.